Hello, everybody. How are you doing today? All right, we are going to finish up with the last part of this story that we have been talking about. We have been talking about the Jericho walls. We've been talking about when Joshua he took all of the Israelites out of the desert into the promised land, and they marched around the Jericho walls until the walls just fell down. They didn't even have to attack the walls. They just shouted and they praised God and they marched around the walls, and God had the walls fall down. So for those of you who may be joining one of these videos for the very first time, what we do is we go through the different stories in the Bible. This is for people who have either never read the stories, they've only heard bits and pieces of the stories, maybe they have forgotten the stories, but we give you a chance to go through the stories in their entirety. Instead of just reading one little part, we read about the whole thing. That way you can learn about it. So to get you caught up, they have marched around the Jericho walls, and God has told them, when you go in and you conquer Jericho, do not take anything for yourself. Any of the gold and silver and that type of stuff that you find, that you plunder, goes into the Lord's treasury. It goes into the house of the Lord. It belongs to God. Do not take anything for yourselves. So I'm going to back up, and we are in Joshua. We're going to read chapter 7, but I want to back up and read chapter 6, verse 24, just to get you caught up. It said, "Then they burned the whole city and everything in it. But they put the silver and the gold and the articles of bronze and iron into the treasury of the Lord's house. But Joshua spared Rahab the prostitute with her family and all who belonged to her, because she hid the men Joshua had sent as spies to Jericho, and she lives among the Israelites to this day. At that time Joshua pronounced the solemn oath, 'Cursed before the Lord is the man who undertakes to rebuild the city Jericho. At the cost of his firstborn son will he lay its foundation. At the cost of his youngest will he set up its gates.' So the Lord was with Joshua, and his fame spread throughout the land." That was the last part of chapter 6. So now we are going to move into chapter 7. "But the Israelites acted unfaithfully in regard to the devoted things. Achan, son of Carmi, the son of Zimri, the son of Zerah, of the tribe of Judah, took some of them. So the Lord's anger burned against Israel. Now Joshua sent men from Jericho to Ai, which is near Bethaven, to the east of Bethel, and told them, 'Go up and spy out the region.' So the men went up and spied out Ai. When they returned to Joshua, they said, 'Not all the people will have to go up against Ai. Send 2,000 or 3,000 men to take it, and do not weary all the people, for only a few men are there.' So about 3,000 men went up, but they were routed by the men of Ai, who killed them, 36 of them. They chased the Israelites from the city gates as far as the stone quarries, and struck them down on the slopes. At this, the hearts of the people melted and became like water. Then Joshua tore his clothes and fell face down to the ground before the ark of the Lord, remaining there till evening. The elders of Israel did the same, and sprinkled dust on their heads. And Joshua said, 'Ah, sovereign Lord, why did you ever bring the people across the Jordan to deliver us into the hands of the Amorites to destroy us? If only we had been content to stay on the other side of the Jordan. Oh Lord, what can I say now that Israel has been routed by its enemies? The Canaanites and the other people of the country will hear about this, and they will surround us and wipe out our name from the earth. What then will you do for your own great name?' The Lord said to Joshua, 'Stand up. What are you doing down on your face? Israel has sinned. They have violated my covenant which I commanded to them. They have taken some of the devoted things. They have stolen. They have lied. They have put them with their own possessions. That is why the Israelites cannot stand against the enemies. They turn their backs and run because they have been made liable to destruction. I will not be with you anymore unless you destroy whatever among you is devoted to destruction. Go, consecrate the people. Tell them, consecrate yourselves in preparation for tomorrow. For this is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. That which is devoted among you, O Israel, you cannot stand against your enemies until you remove it. In the morning, present yourselves, tribe by tribe. The tribe that the Lord takes shall come forward, clan by clan. The clan that the Lord takes shall come forward, family by family. And the family that the Lord takes shall come forward, men by men. He who is caught with the devoted thing shall be destroyed by fire, along with all that belongs to him. He has violated the covenant of the Lord and has done a disgraceful thing in Israel. Early the next morning, Joshua had Israel come forward by tribes, and Judah was taken. The clans of Judah came forward, and he took the Zerahites. He had the clan of the Zerahites come forward by families, and Zimri was taken. Joshua had his family come forward, man by man, and Achan, son of Carmi, the son of Zimri, the son of Zerah, of the tribe of Judah, was taken. Then Joshua said to Achan, my son, give glory to the Lord, the God of Israel, and give him the praise. Tell me what you have done. Do not hide it from me. Achan replied, it is true. I have sinned against the Lord, the God of Israel. This is what I have done. When I saw in the plunder a beautiful robe from Babylonia, 200 shekels of silver and a wedge of gold weighing 50 shekels, I coveted them and took them. They are hidden in the ground inside my tent with the silver underneath. So Joshua sent messengers, and they ran to the tent, and there it was, hidden in his tent with the silver underneath. They took the things from the tent, brought them to Joshua and all the Israelites, and spread them out before the Lord. Then Joshua, together with all the Israelites, took Achan, son of Zerah, the silver, the robe, the gold wedge, his sons and daughters, his cattle, donkeys, sheep, his tent, and all that he had, to the valley of Achor. Joshua said, why have you brought this trouble on us? The Lord will bring trouble on you today. Then all Israel stoned him, and after they had stoned the rest, they burned them. Over Achan they heaped up a large pile of rocks, which remains to this day. Then the Lord turned from his fierce anger. Therefore, that place has been called the Valley of Achor ever since. We're going to go ahead and read part of chapter 8 as well. Then the Lord said to Joshua, do not be afraid, do not be discouraged. Take the whole army with you and go up and attack Ai, for I have delivered it into your hands, the king of Ai, his people, his city, and his land. You shall do to Ai and its king as you did to Jericho and its king, except that you may carry off the plunder and livestock for yourselves, set in ambush behind the city. All right, we're going to go ahead and stop there. Remember, there are 3 ways that we look at these whenever we are studying or reading the stories. 1, what does it say? We have to have reading comprehension. We have to know what the words on the page said. 2, what was it saying to the people of the time? Excuse me, what was going on in context of what we're reading? And 3, is there something that it says to us today? So what we read is that after they took over Jericho, Joshua sent some spies up to this place called Ai. And he told them, scout it out and see what we need to do to take over that town as well. So the scouts go and they find out there aren't really that many people there. It should be a pretty easy thing to do. We just need a couple thousand men and we should be able to take them over. So they send a couple thousand men, but what happens is their men get killed. They start dying. And Joshua is very confused. He's like, God, why did this happen to us? Now all of our enemies are going to think that they can just come and destroy us, and this is terrible. Why did you lead us out of the desert if this is what's going to happen? And God said, because you sinned. I told you not to take any of the silver and gold and the precious things out of Jericho and keep them for yourselves, but some of your men did. And so Joshua has all the men, God tells him, have all the men come forward and start, searching them, questioning them, and he does. And when he gets to Achan confesses, and he says, I did it. I saw this gold, I saw this robe and some shekels, and I coveted it, I wanted it, so I buried it in my tent. Well, because he did that, they took him outside of the camp, and the people stoned him. They not only stoned him, they stoned his family and destroyed everything that was his. They destroyed his cattle, they destroyed his tent, they destroyed everything. They wiped him out. And now that they are cleansed from the sin that was committed by one person, they are able to go into Ai and take over Ai. So what is this saying to us today? So what we find out is that because they sinned, God was not on their side. Here's the thing. There were people who did not sin. There were people who did what God told them to do, and they didn't take any of the gold and silver and bronze. They didn't do that. And yet they still suffered some destruction because of the sin of one person, because of Achan's sin. And so what is this saying to us today? We live in a world where people say things like, worry about your own sin, don't worry about mine. My sin, you don't have to answer for my sin. But what they don't understand is that the sins that they commit actually have an effect on the people all around them. When people are disobedient to God, it has an effect even on the people who are being obedient to God. And that is something that we need to take seriously. It's something that we need to take serious in our community, in our church, in our community, in our families, in our country. There are people who will end up facing destruction because other people do not want to obey what God has told them to do, what he has said is right. When the sin was removed, when that person who had committed the sin was taken out of the camp and destroyed, then God was with the Israelites. Then he was with them. And he was showing them, when you do things my way, remember, we talk about the consistency in all of the stories of God. When you do things my way, things go well. When you don't do things my way, things don't go so well. I will take care of you, but you need to do things the right way. We find out that the next time God told him, go ahead, take the plunder. He was not only testing their obedience back in Jericho, but he was sending a message out to the rest of Israel that my people are here to do my will, not to just take over things because they're greedy and selfish, but because this is what I have given them. And now that they've moved into Ai and the sin is gone, God tells them, all right, this time, go ahead and take the plunder that you find. Why God let them take it this time? Not sure. But what I do know is that God will always take care of us. And they had wants, they had desires, they had needs. And so God's like, I'm going to supply those things for you in my time, my way. Just stay in my will and everything's going to be okay. So that's Joshua 7. And I'm not sure whether we are going to stick with the rest of Joshua or if we're going to take a break and maybe read some other stories. I haven't decided yet, but I hope you got something out of today's reading and today's lesson. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great day.